Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Premier League Gameweek 6 comedy review, the new series where we go over everything that happened during the game week that had us laughing at this game that is FPL. Before we start, feel free to leave any suggestions you have in the comments below, as this is all relatively new to me and any sort of feedback is appreciated. Now, let's get on with it. So before we could even start Game Week 6, we were hit with some injury updates. Patrick Bamford was ruled out of the game week with an ankle injury, and so we had the peculiar situation where people had gone from Antonio to Bamford and back to Antonio all in the space of 3 weeks. FPL big brain right there. Leeds midfielder Rafinha was also doubtful with a hip injury. The majority decided to keep him in, however, and the folks who'd taken him out were left pulling their hair out when he started and scored in their tie against West Ham. Captaincy was also a huge debate before this game week set off, as it usually is. However, this week we had 3 real contenders to choose from: Salah, who was up against Brentford, Ronaldo, who was at home to Villa, and Michail Antonio, who was back after his red card in game week 4 against Leeds. We started off with City taking on Chelsea in an important encounter among 2 title favourites. Chelsea, having won their last 3 encounters with Tuchel in charge, were confident. However, Jesus provided some divine intervention as his deflected shot on goal gave City a 1-0 win. Bad day for Chelsea defender owners, as not only did they lose their clean sheet but also Reece James, who went out injured. Azpilicueta was tempted at one point to ride Grealish like he was a mechanical bull. That was all Chelsea could manage though, as Lukaku blanked as well. Huge result for City, who are back within striking distance at the top. That City defense looking as good as last year, but the real question is, does anyone want to get on the Pep roulette? Never back the early kickoff, they say, as United's game was shifted in order to accommodate a concert happening in Manchester. Proved right, as Ronaldo blanked in a match that had all the fireworks at the end. Luke Shaw got injured midway through the first half and gave his backers a grand total of 0 points, having been booked earlier. Villa scored a header in the 88th minute, and most people assumed that was that. However, United earned themselves a penalty in the dying minutes, as the referee probably remembered Ollie's complaints about being handed no pens in the press conference earlier. Ronaldo captainers and owners licked their lips waiting for the GOAT from Portugal to step up. However, it was the Portuguese Magnifico Bruno who stepped up to take it. Emi Martinez made sure to get in a word or two before the kick was taken, and clearly messed with Bruno's head, who instead of the usual hop, skip and shoot technique decided to straight up blast the ball all the way to Mars. Emi Martinez decided to show us his dance moves as Bruno stood rooted to the spot. Villa keep the 3 points, and Bruno owners might just have had enough. Bruno still seems to be on pens, as evidenced from the interviews after the game, but you wonder if that would still continue if he happened to send the next one to the moon. Vardy was involved in goals at both ends of the pitch in their match against Burnley, scoring a header into his own net before remembering that he was supposed to score at the other end. Score 2 he did, not enough for a win though, as it finished 2-2, but more than enough to convince Vardy owners of their choice. Sean Dyche, meanwhile, is going to force-feed his Burnley side gravel over the week to toughen them up enough to get their first win of the season. Luke Dean has been declared by many as a top-tier FPL troll after his start to the season, where he'd only managed to keep a single clean sheet till now. He also scored an own goal last week just to infuriate his owners even more. However, even a man with Dinier's talents at trolling couldn't justify conceding against Norwich, as they managed a comfortable 2-0 win. Doucouré, Townsend, Gray and Alan all provided returns in the midfield. The Norwich hack remains in place. Get someone in your team who is facing Norwich for guaranteed stress-free points. Rafinha has been an amazing pick this season so far. Despite the Leeds defense looking shaky, Rafinha has the flair and skill of someone who always influences the game. This week was no different, as he got a goal despite doubts he was injured. Condolences to the poor souls who transferred him out for a hit thinking he was injured. Ultimately, he could have had more, and Leeds were made to pay in the closing minutes as Antonio tucked the ball into the net after a nice touch to control the ball. And suddenly he went from 1 point to 5 and managed to get 3 bonus points as well. Immense relief for the people who captained him, including myself. Sarr continued to impress as he scored another goal against Newcastle. Saint-Maximin remains the most positive thing about this Newcastle side, bagging 3 bonus points. Foster right now is an absolute bargain as a 4 million playing goalkeeper and an absolute legend with his cycling GK vlogs. To end Saturday, Brentford and Liverpool clashed in a classic that finished 3-all. Reminded me of the game with Leeds in Game Week 1 last year. Jota scored a header and should have had another, which was saved point blank by the keeper. Still well deserved for Jota owners who suffered 2 blanks in a row and Jota missing seemingly unmissable chances. With Firmino back from injury, Jota's minutes are in real danger going forward. Don't be surprised if he is off before 60 minutes against City next week. Salah remains as consistent as ever, scoring this week as well. However, it was Brentford who stole the show as they showed the resoluteness of a hungry drunk fighting for the last slice of pizza. They went head to head with Liverpool and came away with the point. Tony and Mbeumo look like the good buys as the season rolls ahead once Brentford are finished with their tough run of games. Another man who has managed to elevate himself to FPL troll status is Adama Traore. He has an astonishingly high expected goals and assists despite the fact he hasn't scored yet. He came very close last week with a shot that hit the crossbar, and so for people who thought that was a good omen and decided to keep him in, they were rewarded by finding out he started off the bench. Traore takes top spot as tier 1 FPL troll. Trincao joined him on the bench as well. Wolves, however, managed to win 1-0, and it was the keeper Sa who assisted Jimenez for his goal. And so finally Jimenez has opened his account for the season. As someone who sold Sa this week, I cried myself to sleep seeing his 14-point haul. However, Traore's 1-point haul justified my other transfer. I'm still not sure of this Wolves attack or defense, and a few more weeks of convincing victories would have me believe. Will Traore score next time? That's as slippery to answer as the oil on his biceps. Arsenal went and absolutely spanked Spurs in the North London derby. 3-0 up by 35 minutes with Saka and Smith Rowe running the show and Aubameyang scoring as well. Son managed to score a consolation towards the end with an assist from Reguilon to ruin any Arsenal clean sheet hopes. But Arsenal looked very convincing in this game. Condolences to those who have any Spurs defenders in their teams. Nuno seems to have stifled the attacking threat that Spurs possessed, and I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs fans started calling him No instead. And so as Monday night rolled around, all hopes rested on a Brighton clean sheet to rescue what had been a disaster of a game week for many. Sanchez, Weltman and Duffy, part of many a FPL side, although there were a few waiting for a Crystal Palace clean sheet as well with Keita. Sanchez had a chance to match Sa's heroics but could not save Zaha's penalty. Maupay scored in added time to deny a Palace clean sheet and had the celebrations to match. Potter continues the season with his absolute wizardry as Brighton remain just a point behind league leaders Liverpool. So ended an extremely bad game week for many. Even reaching 50 points meant you'd done quite well. There were a flurry of accounts that seemed to have been hacked, transfers made and FPL teams deleted. Right now the theory is that it may be due to signing into third-party apps, but till we know for sure, it is best if you go ahead and change your password just to be on the safe side. This is a very serious issue, and I can only imagine how devastating it would be to lose your FPL teams. Stay safe, people. So that's it for the FPL Gameweek 6 comedy review. As always, any suggestions are appreciated, and leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed. Cheers and take care.